All right, we are back in full effect in the Detroit is Different incubator space, the podcast studios, and I have somebody that's already begun rolling. And I was like, wait, before we get into more, man, we gonna table this for a second, and then we're gonna jump right back into this discussion. As everybody knows, and if you don't know, I'm letting you know now. Hip hop was my journey into marketing, into content creation, into everything that I do now. So when people say, "Hey, man, you just gave a good presentation," or this was a really good proposal, or how did you think that through? I'm like, yo, man, I've been doing this type of thought process, Miyagi style, meaning like I learned in hip hop a lot of what I apply in business today.
Word.
And the people that know me best know that, like, oh, okay, I can see you doing that. And then the people that don't know me, like, man, you have a lot of confidence when you're sitting giving these presentations. I'm like, yo, you think this is confidence? Psh, try being that person that signs the open mic list.
Yes.
And you number 4. And you number 4, but you gotta wait till 158 to rhyme.
Oh, indeed.
So like that whole spirit, and then trying to keep those 3 people paying attention so they don't walk out on you when it's 150.
Man.
I tell people, like, that to me is the hardest show to rock, when it's like, when everything in the room says to, like, the people, you can eyeball them, like, do they need to get up and go home, go to sleep, go to their girl, go to their guy, go get high or whatever.
Man.
But you keeping their attention because you came with a dope song and you embrace that. That feeling is an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Because the feeling of seeing people walk away while you on stage just makes you feel like, oh, this hurt.
It's horrible.
And this guy definitely got skills in rocking the mic. MC, Detroiter, heck of a story, complex, deep thinker, and somebody that has definitely also used the vehicle of hip hop to apply and attract and gain access to the world.
Word.
V Stylez, what's happening, sir?
My dude Kyrie, what's good, my G?
Oh, man, everything is happening. Everything is happening is good.
Yeah.
I'm going to start this like I start most Detroit is Different stories. Your family. Are you a first-generation Detroiter?
Oh, wow.
Second-generation Detroiter? Third-generation? Who in your family was the first people to step foot in the Detroit area?
Who, man, that's crazy. My family, my origins is like the Vessey name. My name is Orlando Vessey. You can trace my last name Vessey all the way back to Denmark Vessey. If you're not familiar with Denmark Vessey was years before Nat Turner. And if you go back down to South Carolina, where you had, at the time, the largest slave revolt against slave owners ever. He wound up planning, Denmark Vessey was a cat that was a carpenter, self-trained. He wound up winning the lottery, buying his freedom out of South Carolina. And he also took his earnings from the lottery winnings and freed other slaves, and they planned a revolt, which would have been the largest revolt for black slaves at the time against slaves owners. And somebody within his crew wound up snitching him out, and he got hung. And years later, Nat Turner revisited that same scenario, and we seen the story on that. So pretty soon we got an exhibit coming up, I believe November 15th at the African American Museum for Denmark Vessey, and it's going to be the largest display as far as he's concerned, museum wise in North America, man. So I'm so proud of that. I'm a 4th generation descendant of Denmark Vessey. My family is from, I hope they make a movie about Denmark.
And for people that know, they know that I nerd out on Black history, but specifically Detroit's Black history. But I really nerd out on a lot of Black history. And what you're talking about with Denmark Vessey, for the MCs watching, the MC Denmark Vessey obviously takes the moniker from...
Yeah. That's crazy, because I know him. That's my guy.
Yeah.
And he hit me up, and he was like, man, do you mind if I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? You dope. Do what you gonna do, because at the end of the day, it brings, you're bringing people to light that may not even be aware of what you're trying to present.
Yeah.
And it gives them an opportunity. I come up in the era when it wasn't the internet. So, I'm internet savvy, but I grew up when it just was, dictionaries and encyclopedias, so we didn't have none of this crazy shit, man. Now, all you got to do is enter the name in the search engine, and you can find all the information.
But within that information, as they say, doing the knowledge, as the 5%ers would say.
Indeed.
Like doing the knowledge, a lot of MCs, as we know, took monikers of the mafioso characters.
Corny. I mean, they did that.
To take the moniker of a freedom fighter.
That's my whole point. I knew Denmark. I knew where he was going with it, so it wasn't even when he.
So when you think about like the legacy of that name and such an impactful figure in American history itself, as that Denmark Vessey case set a lot of the precedent that led to the Confederate Army and the Confederacy, the 3/5 of human being moving forward in law, and also what eventually led into what enslavement could be if you are imprisoned. Most of the precedent of that all came through your bloodline. Like, indeed. That's powerful. So you think about a MC honoring that, as opposed to honoring like a Gambino or Escobar or the mafioso characters that a lot of MCs kind of look to with pride, but to honor a freedom fighter.
Exactly.
And like a direct freedom fighter. So like in some ways, shout out to Mutulu Shakur and everything, but he's a freedom fighter. But the freedom fighting that Denmark Vessey was fighting for was a whole different level.
A whole nother level, yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So when you think about that legacy existing, were these oral traditions passed down when you were a child?
When I was a kid, every family reunion, the oldest Vessey would always tell a story about Denmark Vessey. And we would all sit and we would learn about Denmark. The weird thing is, when I was in school, again, no internet. All we had was library cards and, books that, you might be able to find outside of the library, but all you had was the library for information. So every February, at least, if you black, you writing about, it's Black History Month, so you writing about, black figures, while everybody else was writing about, and I love these guys. No diss to definitely, I mean, I shouldn't even say that, but no disrespect to Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the Frederick Douglasses, the people like that. But when other people were stuck on that, I wrote about Denmark Vessey every year, to the fact that when I started writing about him, teachers would challenge me like, this, who is that?
Happen. Who is this?
Yeah. So I would have to go to the library
and then bust their
heads with it. So at that time, I didn't even realize that I was teaching them. And that's like, wow, you revisit that, and I'm like, wow, I was teaching them all along, and they had no clue. And it was like they was kind of rebuffing me, like, get this out of here. And then when I bring actual facts, it's like, wow. So that it made them do the knowledge. So they couldn't come on me with the unfair grade of, so going back to that, I was kind of like teaching people about somebody I was learning about on the daily growing up.
Wow, they was just like, everybody got an uncle. And it's like, nah, dude, my uncle changed the course of the Supreme Court history.
Yeah, exactly.
And really, I think that case itself sped up to what would become the Confederate fight.
Oh, indeed.
as it was like, I mean, the argument has always been like, the Confederates' argument was we don't really need the North in the first place.
Right.
And they're holding us back with their laws and their regulations and stuff, So with that whole concept, your family coming to Detroit. When did your family come to Detroit?
That's a good question, man. That's something that I really don't know, but I can tell you the VC origin, as far as I can remember, is Inkster, Michigan.
Okay.
My whole and you know what? Since you asked me that, I'm gonna make sure that I provide you that answer.
Okay.
I just gotta hop on the jack and call my
get it.
Yeah, call my Uncle Venus because he's like our historian. But my entire family really is from Inkster. My mom and dad, they went to Inkster High School. My dad is a Marine. His dad was a Marine. My mom went to Inkster High School. Her dad was a Marine.
Wow. So we talking a different level of breaking barriers. If your grandfathers were Marine, they were like some of the first Black Marines. Like.
Yeah. My uncles, like my whole family, man, and I'm a dad's kid. My dad wound up getting a job with Wayne County, and he decided to move his family to Detroit. And I grew up on Fenkell. My street was Myers. I grew up on Myers between Pearson and Fenkell. So you're talking about, like, I live in Myers was a busy street, but but between Fenkell and Pearson, man, you talking about like, I know Eastside got their spots, man, but it don't get no grimier than the Fenkells, the Puritans, the Dexters, like Schoolcrafts. Like those streets are like, you got to be careful.
Yeah, you got to be careful, but I definitely think even before we switch off with Inkster, like Inkster, Southwest Detroit, River Rouge, like it's a different type of community over there, especially with Black folk, like where it's almost like small townish.
Yeah, and whereas Detroit is big townish.
Yeah.
And that's what I was gonna say this too. I spend like I'm just as much Inkster as I am Detroit because I grew up there. That's where my family's at. So. I may have went to school here and there as far as the city, but I was in Inkster on a daily.
Like that whole Black downriver experience is really to the point where, and even Southwest Detroit, like the Black community there has always has a different tie, especially when we think about like the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
When people were there, people know the doctor, people know the dentist.
Oh, indeed.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was really a village.
Yeah.
It's really a village.
So like your ties and your family there, was it one of those things where like you be there and they be like, oh, yeah, that's one of them VC kids.
All you got to do is look at the face and the freckles. You look at the face and the freckles, they be like, oh, you related to Harold? Yeah, that's my uncle, man. Who your daddy, Melvin? Oh, I know. Oh, yeah, he the oldest. Yeah.
So it was like you couldn't get into too much food.
No, not at all. See, and that's the beauty. Like the community back then, man. If it takes a village. If I'm cutting up, then I'm gonna get it from them, and then they go tell my people. My people will give it to me again. And, you go through that a couple times, man. It's like, you know what? Let me straighten up and fly right, and that's what we not getting today. That's a whole nother issue, though.
Yeah. And a lot of working class folks over there, most definitely, like those pockets of towns, and even in a lot of ways, Highland Park right here, where like towns and pockets made around the plant, the industrial industry of like the way that the streets were set up, with the churches set up, like the whole city itself was functioning around an industry. Now when you you know, the 70s and 80s was kind of the transition as we have seen a lot of industry. The industrial age is, you know, not what it used to be. Let's put it like that.
Man.
So its impact on cities like River Rouge and Inkster.
Right.
Like, what was that? What was it like watching that transition as you were growing up?
You know, it's a little different. Seeing people out of jobs and trying to figure out what they're going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
That was difficult to see. You seen people persevere from losing their job, because it's like you got people that work in one industry all their life, then all of a sudden it shuts down or it changes. Now what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we seen a lot of people, you know, rise above that, and then you seen a lot of people, you know, fall off because of that, and that's the crazy part about it. Nobody's the same. It's like we're all affected from it. Mm-hmm. And you know, you got some people that live from check to check, even now. Mm-hmm. You know, living check to check, and then all of a sudden something happens, and it changed their whole psyche to where they don't want to be here no more. Mm. You know, and that's scary. Like, yeah. You know, so thinking about the industry back then, it's like, wow, man. I watch a lot change. Like, we don't have a lot of stuff that we had in the city. Like, the city we used to have like movies within the neighborhoods, the you know, the theaters like right across the street from Eastland Mall. Then you got, I mean, that's Detroit, but you know, you had the Mercury, then you had the Northwest, and you had this certain entities, you know, within the city where people had things to do. Mm-hmm. And it's like all that disappeared for what? Like, at what price, you know, you take those things away to where now we have a community to where all they want to do is ignorant things.
Yeah, yeah, like that community, when you think about where you moved over there on Fenkell and everything.
Yeah,
I remember
man.
You know, like the retail corridor was still close in proximity of like that Greenfield, Grand River area. You know, growing up, it's like Montgomery Ward existed.
Man, Kingsway.
Yeah.
You know, people forget that, like, within our community, we had our own, like, and it wasn't even, like, when I was coming up, that was minimal compared to what people had before me.
Yeah, yeah.
They had way more.
Yeah.
So if I got the last piece of that and we ain't got nothing since, because there's nothing really in the communities, like you have to outsource for everything, or you go to order on the internet. But there's nowhere for us to go within our community to make us feel proud of, you know, getting things, getting goods. Like, we become dependent on going to Southfield, going to Troy, going to, you know, why is it like that, man? That's it's like, you know, they purposely program us to make us feel a certain way. I'm not going to adapt to that. I refuse to.
Now, it's a couple places that I'm sure growing up were common places, like party spots, because that's the other thing I think about that Fenkell neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted to go to high school parties, it was a couple, like the Knights of Columbus Hall, the Cotillion Ballroom.
Yeah.
Depending upon if they had enough money, like even the West Club would do like some high school-ish parties and stuff. What was that culture like, even being in that mix? Because that was kind of where, like, the way that I think the East Side would come around, like that Van Dyke Harper area, the West Side kind of in that era of, I think, like the 90s, 80s, would be over in your neighborhood, basically.
It was dope because you got to see a lot of different flavors, man. And it was, you know, it wasn't peaceful all the time, but it was fun. It was fun, man. I mean, you know, if you wake up in the morning and you want to start some trouble, you a cornball anyway. But most people want to just get out and, you know, let their head down and have fun. And I'm happy that I got a chance to really experience a lot of good times, man.
And that gives me with hip hop. What were some of those first songs going to those parties that was like,
man,
yo?
For me, now you talking about Detroit or are we talking about like just in general?
Both.
In Detroit, wow, man. When I was coming up, wow, you could say Chaos and Maestro. You know, I went to school. Me and Jason went to school together. We went to DePorres, man.
Okay.
Jason, you know, he has the K-Man 313. Jason Wilson, he's a motivational speaker. He's a martial artist. He's one of the dopest people, you know, social media wise right now because he's always, I'm pretty sure you've seen his stuff.
Yeah.
I've watched that dude switch from DJ Maestro. This is a guy that, like, when you was in school, when he got behind them turntables, like whether it was at an icebreaker, whether it was at a party, and I'm like, man, I went to school with that. We go to school with, you know. Look, I work out a lot now, and I was in, I go to a lot of LA fitnesses, man, and one day I went to, I met my boy up at Royal Oaks LA Fitness, and I seen my boy Michael Stats. He's a journalist. He works for XM radio, and and he does Lions football for WJN. And I ran into Jason. I was like, man, he gave me the biggest hug. I mean, he's like the coolest dude, but I'm like, dude, Chaos and Maestro, you ran like Chuck D was co-signing you while we was in school together. Like,
while we was in school.
Like, so it's, like for me, like people like that, AWOL, to me, you don't want none of this is the coldest. It don't get no better than you don't want none of this, man. That AWOL, like when I hear it, when I still hear that track, I mean, it's a crazy record.
But I also think like getting a record, I was telling this because I was younger and hearing it and just watching it on TV, but a record coming when you in the scene of it, like it's a different feel. Like when you hear it at the party and then you get the record, it's like, oh.
I remember being at Southern University and seeing You Don't Want None of This come on the box, and I would lose my mind. And I was way in Louisiana.
Wow.
We had a couple people back then, man. Detroit's Most Wanted was doing their thing. I mean, you had a couple. Merciless Amir, A Day Without a Rhyme. Oh man, and you can't forget this dude, man. One of the coolest dudes that you will ever meet, and one of the dopest like Detroit solo records that ever come out. Frankly Speaking, by my man Awesome Dre. I can remember waking up in the morning and my pop taking me to school and hearing You Cannot Hold Me Back. You cannot hold me. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, like that dude, man, he was another dude that was major before, like I think he was on Bryant Records, but he had a distribution deal through Priority. Like Awesome Dre was doing his thing, man. He a dude that don't get what he deserve, in my opinion.
I think Dre, and he's definitely an interview coming up. Every time I see him, I'm like, man, I got to get you in the mix. And then
I love that dude.
Touch.
That dude
but
is real.
Dre, to me, like, I guess how New York and everybody else looks at like what Rakim represents to them.
Yeah.
He's like what I think like he's that for Detroit.
He's still the same dude though.
And he first off, he looked like he damn near 20 still. And I'm like,
found the youth, baby. The found the youth. That's what it be. It be the found the youth.
And yeah, man, he Dre, what he represented with the hardcore committee and
Man, I love that shit.
And the way he put his rhymes together, like at the time, as Big Daddy Kane's birthday just passed, and he was 50, and I was looking at that like, damn. And I threw out the shout out, and then this is like, people really don't know like how much I love hip hop, but I was like, yo, man, and I was listening to Warm It Up Kane,
man.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, putting these words together, like right now, the style exists, but to see a MC craft a style and recognize, like, damn, I never heard nothing like this before. It was like you were alive to witness, like, a new, I can't even explain. It's like like a new way of watching basketball or something. Like, damn, he just dunked from the free throw line.
And this is what I compare it to. I always tell a person, like when they want to show me the newest or let me hear the newest shit, because I don't really be on me unless somebody, and I'm super humble. I do this because I can do it. But if you play Follow the Leader right now by Eric B. and Rakim, and you listen to his rhymes, and you compare him to today's greatest wordsmith, it don't miss a beat.
Nah.
It don't miss a fucking beat. So that's one of the things that bothers me, in hip hop. Whether it's country, whether it's rock, whether it's alternative, whether it's calypso music, whatever it is, dudes be rocking today 100 years old. And it's no issue that they're 100 years old. But whenever you rhyming, it's like, oh man, this young dude. Yeah, it's music. Music is music. It's either you're dope or you're not dope.
But you know what else I think with MCing, as like I sat and I've put together rhymes for like other MCs. They like, damn, you can do that? I'm like, man, it's styles that an MC has in his bag that he may not use. But it don't mean he can't do that.
Yeah.
It's like I don't do that.
But but look, I'm okay with that because if you talk about that,
I'm saying like Rakim. So it's like in the appreciation of what you're saying. Like, so if Rakim wanted to go out and make a whole record like Migos or Future, he could I think he could accomplish that goal in many ways, but that's just not in the bag of what he's trying to do musically.
But he ain't got to do that though.
But I'm saying he's not trying to.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Indeed. There are artists. Let me give you a perfect example of an artist that has never switched up who he is to sell a record. Perfect example. E40 is the same dude that he was when we was coming up. Yeah, and he is now. So that means that, and I don't mean the same person. I just mean he has crafted his style to the point to where he has innovated what it is for him to be an MC. And we've never said, hey man, switch your shit up to sound like the Migos or da-da-da-da. I think that's one of the problems for us, man. We get so caught up into, I want to be heard, so I got to do a record like that. You don't have to. Now, there are artists that, like, I'm a Busta Rhymes guy. I love Busta. But Bus is one of,
He's a pinnacle MC. He's one of the greatest that ever has done it.
And I'm the biggest Leaders of the New School fan ever.
LONS.
LONS guy ever. In fact, my crew, I was a part of the crew, still am a part of the crew, the last one's out. We helped promote the very last Leaders of the New School concert ever at St. Andrews Hall. Maurice Malone brought them here, and we promoted that shit like it was ours.
The second coming.
Yes. like it was, and it was real. It was only like maybe 150 people in St. Andrews. Drews hold about 300-400 people. But them 150 people that was there
rocked out.
Dude, it was, to this day, it's top 3 shows I've ever been to in my lifetime because of the energy And after that, we all felt Busta was gonna go solo because you could
feel it.
You could feel the energy on stage. And we didn't know because we didn't have internet back then, so you didn't know if that niggas was beefing. None of that, man. We didn't know until Elektra did they little like Elektra used to do little promos for the beginning of quarters or who they knew artists that they was gonna put out, man. Mm-hmm. And then I wound up getting this VHS tape of Busta, with Woo-Ha. And I was like, oh shit, that's gonna be a hit. And I was telling everybody, I'm like, dog, Busta about to come out with some shit, dude. And niggas was looking at me, if that niggas from Leaders, dude. And to this day, people be like, man, you did tell me that nigga Busta was gold.
Yeah.
Like, nigga, Busta has always been cold. Like, I'm big on energy, especially energy on stage. You got to get that shit.
And his performance, even MCing, like, even in the booth, like, we gonna get kind of back into your story a little bit with this, but, like, it's almost up. Like he has so many styles and swords to use. I think, like, if it ever was an MC against any MC, where it's like, look, we all gonna be on the song, and you got 16, I got 16, and he got 16. I definitely want to hear what his 16 gonna be before I even consider. Before I even consider putting a pen to the page, I gotta be like, all right, what is he about to do?
Look, I grew up in the era, and it's funny you just say that shit. I grew up in the era where we had maxi singles, tapes.
Yep.
Busta featured on records, and you may have not even heard the other artists, but you knew Busta was on that remix. Automatically, that made that song official because you wanted to hear what Busta had to say. Mm-hmm. And it's a couple people, like when you talk about the last verse or 16, like,
yeah, you gotta. It'd be like, nah, I'm very interested in seeing what he's about to say.
Oh my God,
like,
man,
I remember, staying up begging my parents to watch that performance when they did Scenario
on Arsenio.
I was like, yo, this is
dog.
And it's like I'm falling in love with hip hop. Like, this has to be the greatest art form ever. Yep. And as we talk about the greatest art form, what's some of your first shows when you went from being a fan to being an MC yourself, or was it always seamless?
Wow. As far as me, man, first shows. Wow, that's crazy. I've done a lot of things. Man, from doing St. Andrews before it was corporate, when it just was crews, whether it be, D12 or...
So you opened up there, like, I'm talking about, like, when you went from rapping to performing, like...
Oh, okay.
Like, early.
Okay, so that's different. I think the very first big show that I did with my man Eclipse, my man Jimmy. We opened up for Cash Money when Cash Money and Rough Riders did their very first world tour. I think they were at Cobo or Joe Louis, one of the two. But
I think they ended up coming back for a swing and did both. But I think they did.
What was the first?
Cobo first.
Cobo was the first.
Then did Joe.
That's the very first big show I ever did.
Wow. Do you? How long of a set did you have?
I had an afro back then. I was backing my man Jimmy up, man. Mm-hmm.
How long of a set did y'all have then?
Our set was about 10, 15 minutes.
10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, we did a record.
Set.
We did a record together.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all like Jimmy put me onto that. I'll never front like that was my shit, but that's the first big thing that I ever did. As far as like
just first out the gate, what was the first small thing that you did?
First small thing?
Just period. When was the first time you performed outside of like the cypher with a mic and a stage?
Man, let's see. I did a lot of shit, man. As far as like when I first started getting recognition, I would say maybe the first big shit was Comerica Park.
Mm. Oh,
and
yeah.
I used to be in this group called Anomaly. And Comerica Park used to have, I forget what they called the theme of it, what the theme of the shows was, but it's almost like a festival. And I remember one night, I think Friday night, the headliner was R. Kelly, and then the next night was
okay.
Nas.
I remember. Okay, this was when the Jazz Fest that's back in Cincinnati now, but just due to I don't even know how many people are aware of this, but throughout some of the late 90s and 2000s, Cincinnati had a back and forth with it, a lot of the black people. So there were, I guess, what would be labeled as rebellions and race riots in Cincinnati. So the Jazz Fest was like, we can't do it in Cincinnati.
So they moved
Let's
to
do it in
Comerica Park.
Detroit.
Okay.
And that's what happened.
I remember R. Kelly night rained out, and then the next night Nas was on.
And the OJs were there too.
OJs was there. Look, that was dope for me.
He was like,
yeah, look.
What they do.
Yeah, look, that was super dope for yeah, the OJs was. I forgot that the OJs was there. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I was in a group called Anomaly, man. We had a song on I think 105.9 at the time, which is now currently what, 107?
107.5?
Yeah. We had
keep rolling.
we had a song called Bring It, and another record called Damage that my boy Mark the Spark was playing on his show all the time. He wasn't even my boy back then, but he was spinning the record because he was feeling the record. We did Bring It, and it wound up raining, so they brought us back the next night, and we did that.
Wow, that's love, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. And you know, I run through my time of being on the radio. The whole Anomaly thing was eye-opening. I had a investor, you know, a woman that I felt like had great intentions for our music. And when it all said and done, you know, when you get into something strictly for money, then it never works. Like, you got to have a passion about the things that you do. And everything that we did on that project, with the exception of my partner's rhymes, like his rhymes were his rhymes, but as far as beats, concepts, it was all my brain.
So the vision of the whole project was you.
Yeah. I mean, we all agreed on the name, but as far as bringing the beats and the whole flavor, I think Doe may have had one or two tracks that he had input on. But you're talking about an 11, 12 track project. That's me. All that's me. Even some of them beats were personally my tracks that I said, well, you know, I'm going to scrap what I'm going to do, and I'm going to
put this in the project.
Yeah, because I had a budget behind me. So when I'm being heard on the radio here in Detroit and in Cleveland and like the markets, it was different. You know, we had to deal with Koch. Like I really thought things.
Well, let me parlay this because I've signed a couple. I don't want to say bad deals as much as I've been in agreements with people where their vision and my vision didn't mesh, and that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And for anybody listening to this, because I just know most artists' attitudes is, I want to do the art. I want to do the art. I want to meet somebody that want to do all the business, and they do that.
Yeah.
That is not the attitude you should have about doing business.
You should know the business.
You should definitely know the business.
Yeah.
And take this from two guys that have learned. And also, it's a lot of people that just because they have money and they're looking to invest money, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors in this entertainment. So the money they think that they're going to make back or recoup or whatever, is so many more people that, you know, want to make money from you than make money with you. That you know, they'll offer you, hey, you know, you can pay me and then I'll introduce you to them and they'll get your show here and they'll get you there. You can pay your way onto this and you can pay your way onto that. And it's like, okay, when will money start coming back? And it's like, don't worry about it. You're going to get large. And it's like, what does that mean?
Smoke and
you know,
mirrors.
so
Real.
Being that you learned in a group, and then the tough thing about that group dynamic, especially when you're younger, is like, you know, you bring your girlfriend, you bring your parents, like it's all these other people that invested. Like, damn, man, you put in all that work, shit about to work out.
Look, we signed our deal. She wound up, you know, I had to work. Like, she was doing all the superficial stuff, like keeping me fly, you know. But her man, you know, shout out to my man Wood. Wood was like one of the heads of Al Wassam, so he can get us the Al Wassam leathers. And at that time, they was like super premium. So, you know, that was nothing for her to keeping us looking nice and taking us out of town and stuff like that. But she wasn't paying everyday bills.
And
so
that is so many artists. Like, and I mean major artists.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll interact, you'll hang out with them, and then you be like, yo, you want to go get something to eat? And then they eat like, yo, dude, I needed this meal. Yeah. And you be like, damn. It was just Applebee's.
Look, exactly. It was just how. Look, I've never, you know, my dad, my mom have always instilled in me to work for what I want. Yeah. I've never been no knucklehead as far as depending on strictly just music to get by, man. You can't think like that. If you can't gamble your whole way through life, you know. So it's like you got to make sure that certain things, like there are just certain necessities in life that if you're dependent on music, I mean, don't get me wrong, maybe a small percentage, you know, could do certain things, but a majority of people are not living that extravagant lifestyle that you might see on TV. No. That's smoke and mirrors.
Extremely small percentage. Yes. And there's so many more people that it's interchangeable. And then just even the industry itself. Like when most artists come up to me and say, hey, man, work with me and I want to do this and I want to do that. And then I ask them, the next question I say is, when's the last time you bought some music? And then they say, and I say, when's the last time you bought a concert ticket? And I'm like, all right, so you trying to make something that you won't even buy. You're not even the customer or consumer of what it is, but you think that I should take my money and invest in you, and you don't even invest in your own. Like you don't even know what the industry is.
Most artists don't even have health insurance, man.
Man, beyond health insurance, just the state of affairs is so tough.
Yeah. Oh, indeed. I mean,
health insurance, retirement. What type of will and testament of what you do own, how you own it, what happens to it? Because I mean, even right now, when I think about my intellectual property of my song, and that's what's so weird about music. You know, your songs out there, my songs out there. You know, we pass or something happens to us, we get incapacitated. They snatch one of our songs, put it in the new Matrix.
Oh, indeed.
How would our family go about recouping the money for that? You know what I'm saying? Like. I mean, Michael Jackson's estate is having issues with this. So, I mean, Kari Frazier's estate definitely.
I have, you know, I got a daughter that's 18 and a son that's 13, and they will always be the controllers if something happens to me.
Yeah.
So,
but having those talks and those discussions and even having that in place of like, oh, this is what an entertainment attorney should do. This is the way they should move. That's deep. So like from that situation in a group, how did you end up, what was your journey? Because I'm sure you had like a bad taste in your mouth, but you stayed moving.
Look, it was the week. I never forget. You remember when all the power went out for like 2 weeks?
Yep.
I wind up, I had a record that was spinning on both stations in prime time. Mix shows, prime time, like I was getting rotation. And
you was in the mix.
Yeah.
You was getting in every club for free.
I'm doing shows all around the city.
You could get a drink from damn near everybody for free.
Look, yes.
But
I'm doing promo tours. Okay. We wind up, you know, that thing happened when we lost power. I had to go to work. I work for Wayne County. And you know, I had to go to work. And it's like, well, we got rehearsal today. And it's like, well, I got to go to work, you know. I know these records. Let me go to work. I got to make my money. I'm not asking for anything. Just
unreasonable.
Yeah, just let me go to work. And her ultimatum was, is either you go show up or I'm kicking you out. And and I thought about it. I was like, bills or her kicking me out of the group. I was like, this is all my idea anyway. It's your money. I was like, I'll be good. You know, it is what it is. So she wound up kicking me out the group and replacing me with somebody else.
Oh, man.
And
got temptation.
And yeah, I got temptation. And the funny thing is that shit didn't work out because it wasn't the same feel.
It wasn't you.
Yeah, it was. See, and you learn quickly that, damn, okay, yeah, I may have replaced him, but it's definitely not the same, and it's not the same feel. So the problem with me for that was it left a sour taste in my mouth. I didn't want to experience that again. And I was on paper for 2 years. So I couldn't do anything until I got off paper with this lady, man. So I just plotted, and I didn't know what direction I was going to go in or if I even wanted to continue to do this, because I work. I'm good. I don't really need to do this. I do this, you know, I do this. Yeah, I do this love. It's for me, it's therapy, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I wind up, every year I used to go to this place. Well, I used to go to New York every year to celebrate New Year's and my birthday, because my birthday is on January 4th. And after I celebrate my birthday there, I will always come home. And around then, it was Month of the Man, and I was at the Tunnel, and I was there for Flip Mode's Gold Party for the Imperial album. And, you know, I know Splip Star, that's my guy. I wound up seeing Redman there, like walking around the Tunnel, like you're walking around people that we see on TV all day. So I wound up seeing Redman there. Me and Redman always been cool. And, you know, we cheaped a little bit. He was like, man, I'm going to be in a place called Justin's next week, man. Me and Meth, we about to do this Month of the Man tour. So I was like, that's right up the street from me.
That's down the street from my people.
I said, I'll be over there, man. And,
yeah.
And it was the following week. So I went up there. And my man Ron used to own Justin. So he took me to the back, you know, some drinks and, you know, some finger sandwiches or whatever. And my boy Gov was back there. I didn't know Gov at the time.
Big Gov, he talking about another MC that I need to get back in effect for full Detroit is Different.
Oh, indeed.
With a unique story of what I call like mixing success of real life with hip hop success.
Indeed.
Continue.
You know, Ron introduced me to Gov, and, you know, Gov younger than me. So, you know, I at this point for me, I'm fed up with the Detroit politics and all this bullshit. So me and Gov, we started talking. He was like, you rhyme? I was like, yeah, I rhyme. You know, he spit a rhyme. I spit a rhyme. He spit a rhyme. I spit a rhyme. He spit a rhyme. I spit a rhyme. And then he just kept spitting rhymes. And I'm sitting up here listening to him like, he got
the love.
I'm like, yeah, you dope. But I was at a point to where I felt like, you know, I don't feel like fucking with nobody else. And I gave Gov my number. Gov called me the very next day.
That's real.
And we've been friends ever since.
Wow.
And that's 98, 99.
I remember. What's so funny is I was at that damn signing too.
Because I think Meth didn't show up because something happened to his daughter. Or something like that. I don't know what,
but I know Reggie was there because they were, my dad's a CPA, and at the time, all right, so you get to a point where you kicking it with Red, you come back to the D, connect with them again, but it really wasn't even necessarily Red you was connecting with.
Nah,
you connected with Gov.
I wound up seeing Red, you know, for a brief second, but it was like me and Gov for the most part, man. And back then, man, you know, back in my youthful exuberance years, man, I know I was gone off something, whether it be Hennessy, whether whether it be whatever. But me and Gov, that was like the thing, and I gave him my number, and I didn't even think he'd probably call me back, and he called me back, and we've been rocking ever since. You're talking about like 19, 20 years now, and I've always said this. Gov to me is, you talk about complete artists. The MC is dope. The MC is real dope.
Yeah.
I think the producer is super extraordinary.
I admire him most because of his business vision. And to do it all, like, but that's kind of like where my mind is in business. But like the way he moves in business, budgeting every step of the way, like it's embracing the idea of independent artistry. Mm-hmm. So y'all working together kind of triggered, like it lit you back up. It lit the flame to move.
Gov has always told me to do me. And he's always been part of my vision as far as like I've always felt like if you hear me, you're gonna hear him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he just always been that guy to make sure that I got that right sound, and he caters to what I love, but put his own little into it. Mm-hmm. I'll take Gov before I take anybody. Mm. I'm talking about I work with a lot of dudes, but if I
work with a lot of dudes.
If I call Gov and say, man, I need this, like he's a person that I never have to question. Mm-hmm. He's gonna bring me something, authentic for me. Like he may get these dudes over here, like the current, whatever they want to hear, whatever the makeup is. But for me, he can't bring me that. He got to give me something that's different, which makes him different to be able to create this way and then go over here. Like Gov is like, I've been asking him recently, like, dog, please enter a beat battle. Just enter a beat battle, because there's a lot of people, like I hear they joints and it's dope, but I've been listening to this dude for 20 years. He's self-taught. Like he's taught himself how to work the ASR 10. I remember first meeting him, I wanted to start making beats just off the things that I would see him do, making beats and then putting it into a 4-track and making a 4-track sound like a 16-track. So to see him do the things he would do with sounds and manipulate them, it was like, wow, I want to do something different, but I can't buy the ASR 10. I'm gonna buy me an MPC 2000.
That was definitely the ASR 10 was like one of the first tools.
It's either the module or the board, and Gov worked off either one of them. It didn't matter. He'd take the module and just program it, and then chop it, and then if it was the board, he'll still do the same thing, but it just was easier because it was the board that was like, and then here's the thing. Yeah, I can write and rhyme, that's great, but when you talk about producing, there's a certain language that you got to understand. If you don't have a producer's language or a producer's then I thought I just was going to pick the MP up and just start making beats. Mm-hmm. I had no knowledge.
A lot of people have done that. A lot of people are still trying.
Frustrating, bro.
It's frustrating, but I also think like the like knowing what to add, where to add, and then it becomes like as I was telling, it's Sonny, because I seen him grow so much with me working with him. The guy Ian, when I first met him, and I was like, yeah, you can guide these people, but so much of this also is knowing the vision for where the music is going to. And I think it's a lot of guys that can make good sounding beats nowadays, but to actually produce and know like where that breath comes in for the artist to be themselves and expressive, that takes the art form of the producer.
Gov didn't know how to work an MP. Mm-hmm. But I watched him literally within 5 minutes figure that shit out. Yeah, this is dope.
I can see.
And he showed me how to chop drums, how to sample, how to just do things that it's like, wow, I would have never known this had you not shown me, because it's a completely different language. So and that's why you have to respect the producer, man. Respecting the producer and the engineers is super important, because you're only as dope. Yeah, you could be dope lyrically, but if you don't have nothing that's gonna make your vision stand out, then
and then also being on the same page with them, where they buy into your vision and expand upon it, can be some of the, that's really where everything happens. So you went full swing back in, like, did you ease back into working with Gov, or like, was it like we at it again? From that day at Justin's?
It was a gradual process, because we wound up, he was dealing with this dude named Chris, and he had a label called D-Boy Records. And I wound up signing with D-Boy Records for this compilation called Storm of the Century. I was on the title record, Storm of the Century. Then I had another record called Waiting.
But was this more so just a solid based on your relationship with Gov?
Oh, yeah.
More so than like that crew?
It was everything with me being based relationship-wise with Gov, because Gov believed in me, and then Chris was like, ooh, come on. And back then, it's like, man, I just want to whatever, you're not really thinking about certain.
So at that point, it was really that therapy of like getting in the studio, letting it out. I got it in me. But unlike my old situation, I kind of just can come in as an MC, tear it down.
Oh, no. See, I had to tell you that story.
Yeah.
Because that story is before the Anomaly story. Now, when I wind up, as far as the Anomaly story is concerned, when she wound up replacing me, I had to sit down for a minute. And I didn't know what I was going to do.
Okay.
But I knew I had records to where, and then, you get in a certain profession, and they think, oh, man, when you tell people what it is that you do or you love doing, you got a lot of people that are dream killers. They don't want to see you happy for whatever reason. You could be a cook, and you could say, man, I make the best hamburgers on the planet, and they'll hate on you for talking about how much you love making hamburgers. It's the dumbest shit in the world to me. Like, why would you hate on somebody's passion? But there are people out there, and most of the time there are people that don't know what they're good at in life, if they're good at anything. So they sit back and they judge people that have something going on. But I had a lot of songs that I wound up recording, solo-wise prior to the Anomaly stuff. So there was this little thing where the internet had started becoming accessible, and you could send music to different people. And that was around the time where we were phasing out of two-way pagers. And I had a lot of people's emails, a lot of people. And I wound up doing a record with Mr. Cheeks called Clap Your Hands. And I pressed up vinyl, and I wound up sending it overseas to Japan. Japan, they made me one of their premier artists for Joint One Radio. It allowed me to get a buzz over there. And how I looked at it was, if I get a buzz over there, then maybe something might spread over here. And little by little, something spread it. So I kept my same pattern, and I wind up sending a clean version of this song called First to Rise to, a lot of producers, a lot of DJs. So one day, me and my DJ at the time, well, he's still my DJ, but my guy, me and Mark the Spark, we were at the Bullfrog, and I got a page on my BlackBerry, and I'm looking at the page, and the page is like, can you please send me the dirty version of this record? I want to play it on my satellite radio show. So I'm looking at it, and I'm Hennessy'd up at the time. I'm, you know, feeling real good. So I'm looking at it. You know, I answered a lot of texts that night over this particular record. So I'm like, yeah, I hit you up when I, you know, get back, you know, from the club or whatever. He's like, yeah, because I really want to play this, man. It's a hot record. And it's at Preem. So I'm looking like Preem. And then when he send a okay back, it said Primo. So it went from Preem to Primo. So I'm looking at this shit like, and I'm buzzed. And I'm like, Mark, man, you think this DJ Premier from Gang Starr? He was like, ask him, oh. I was like, is this, I said, excuse me, is proper than a motherfucker. Excuse me,
Pardon
sir.
me. Do you happen to be one of the greatest producers of hip hop ever?
I was like, is this DJ Premier from Gang Starr? And he was like, yes. And that was the day that changed my life, because you go from people hating or whatever you want to call it or being negative to, in my opinion, you know, top 3 greatest producers of all time asking for your record.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck y'all, I'm tight. You know, I mean, no diss. It's like, man, you know, I went from not feeling so sure about myself to, man, Preem asked me for my record. What the fuck y'all talking about, man? And that's how I kind of started looking at my music. Like, if Preem like this shit, that means a lot.
It's an ear out there that is, if his ear likes it, then it's ears out there that are curated that really want it. And that's really what was like the next step. So what was the project you did, I'm guessing, after that? And were you working with Gov?
Gov has always been a part of, he's always going to be a part of what I do. Me and Gov was working, I think I put out 16 collabs and other shit, and that was like records that I had done, but I hadn't released. Like I have a record here, I have a record there, but I never put out a whole project. It just was bits and pieces of things that I had done. It's like a mixtape. Even though I don't like calling mixtapes, because to me mixtapes are exclusives from different people. You know, I mean, but 50 Cent kind of like switched that up with the whole, you know. But I put out 16 collabs and other shit. And then I started working on at Shalom Even. You know, initially it was called Masterpiece Theater, but like the CD that I gave you, I started working on some serious records. You know, Gov gave me solid records for this last project. I got production on there from him, Jay Dilla, my man Moss from over in Toronto, Astronaut over in Europe, my man Bumpy Knuckles. Let's see, who else is on there?
You got
production-wise.
Production-wise, let's see.
As far as songs with, I got joints with Raz Kaz, Bumpy Knuckles and Crooked Eye.
You got Royce.
Royce is on there with my man OC from Digging in the Crates. I got my man Chip Fu from Fu Snickens. Rusty Jux from Brooklyn. My man Rapper Big Pooh out of the group Lil Brother, and you know they just had a reunion last weekend. Shout out to him. My man Joe Scudder, Miss Corona. Like some serious records. Shabam Sadiq, my man Phantasm from the Cellar Dwellers. DJ Dez on the cuts. It's some serious records on there. I love Masterpiece Theater. It gives me before Masterpiece Theater, 2010, I put out a record called Clash of the Titans. It was me, Royce, Elzai, Rapper Big Pooh, and Fat Cat. That was kind of like the record that got me like the the dope buzz where I was on World Star, I was on allhiphop.com, I was on Vibe. Like I was on every social media thing that you could possibly think of at that particular time. And it just did some things for me to where it allowed me to, you know, people took me a little bit more serious as an artist. Like, wow, he got records that, like, wow, how did he put that shit together? Mm-hmm. That record has allowed me to do a lot of things. Being, you know, in New York, I can remember when I went to go. Me and Bumpy Knuckles got an EP called Real Spit that we recorded a little while ago. When I went out there to record it, my man, Royce and Vish, that's my family, they're my cousins. They had I think Royce had the Success is Certain party at SOB's. Mm-hmm. And I get there, I had just landed, I get my car, and I go, the SOPs, they pull me on stage. And I had no idea they were shooting a video at the time, but they were shooting a video for Writer's Block, the Eminem DJ Premier version. But I get there, the next day I go, you know, rock out with Bump. And I said, wow, man, you know, we've got a lot of shit, you know, like literally a lot of shit that I've been able to accomplish, and not knowing that I can actually do this shit. You know, sometimes, man, it's like wherever it take you, you go. Mm-hmm. You know, but I can remember being on stage and people screaming, man, do Clash of the Titans. Mm-hmm. Do your verse from Clash of the Titans. So, you know, when you're in another state, mm-hmm. you know, and people recognize who you are, it's like, wow, okay, I'm reaching some people, and it makes mm-hmm. you feel a certain way, especially coming from this place. Yeah. Coming from Detroit, I mean, yeah, Motown, I get that, but Motown, from a realistic standpoint, it's not here mm-hmm. anymore. So I say that, like, we don't, there is no Sony up the street. There is no Warner Brothers up the street. Like, we really are, like, everybody want to be that mega person when it comes to the city. I took a different route. Mm-hmm. I always felt like wherever they accepted you, that's where you should go.
And that's one of the things I think Gov does too. Like, Gov is very strategic with the stages and the shows he rocks, making sure he reaches his fans, his audience, as opposed to, I think, being compromised by, like, what he perceived as, you know, the direction to go, which connects him to, like, the success that is bountiful in many ways. I think you too. And it's funny, I was kind of having this discussion when I interviewed Amp Fiddler about what that's Amp, like.
That's my guy.
In other places, in traveling. What's the travel?
Amp a god over in Europe.
Oh, well, I mean, talk about it, bro. Talk about it. I mean, I think he's like the coolest dude ever. Just period. Like,
you talking look, cool. Look, you talking about the fountain of youth.
Oh, talk about it,
dog. That talk dude, about man, it. That dude's like, dog. What did you own, man? Let me give me that shit. Let me put my palm on it. Just, you know, hey.
Yeah, he's working on something real big, real special soon. That'll be coming. Detroit is different. Definitely gonna be behind that. But like when you think about these other markets and in the ways that, like, of today and the internet and interacting with DJs, what would you say to, like, the young MC that's looking to find a foot in the door and reach their audience and find those fans? What words of wisdom would you even give them in that traveling to those international markets?
Just be persistent. Stay persistent on your beliefs. If you got dope product, your product is gonna speak, period. Mm-hmm. So never forget that. If you got something that's dope, it's gonna speak. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is finding where you're wanted. Me, I'm not gonna say I was lucky. I just was super persistent with like the worst. Always remember this: the worst thing a person can tell you is no. Know the difference between solicited and unsolicited. That's the thing that a lot of artists don't know. You need, sometimes you need representation to get your music to a certain point, and then there are other people that you don't necessarily need representation to get your music to a certain point. Sometimes those are more important people than the people you need to get you to a certain point. So do both. Don't sell yourself short. Like, you have to believe in yourself. Ever since Premier told me what he told me and asked me, for my music, I haven't really given two shits about what anybody else has thought, because to me, one of the GOATs care enough about my music to constantly play my shit on his show. And he always tell me, V, I only go play it if it's dope.
That's what's up.
I'm only gonna play it if it's dope. And the real dope thing about somebody like Preem is I can have a certain single that I'm trying to promote. He won't play that single. He'll pick like
something that he find dope.
Off my last album, I got about 18 records on there. I say he played about 10 of them on his show, and he would spread them out. Like, he might play one record 2-3 weeks in a row, and then like the following week he'll take another record that he write, and he keeps you alive. Like, the thing is, like, music today is microwavable. As soon as you put it out, it's either gonna hold your ear or it's not. And if it don't hold your ear, chances are you're not gonna hear that record again.
If that. For what I would say, the popular audience, because I definitely think if it ever was a time, music, hip hop is the anchor of all of this music ship right now.
Yeah.
So like the ship of music is moving to what hip hop is, and it's really marketed to 8 to 13-year-olds.
Oh, indeed.
So
Indeed.
And I'm generalizing of what popular music is. So like for the person like me, I may get a project and I may not listen to it for a month and a half, but to an 8 or 13-year-old, a month and a half is like eternity. So I definitely know how the time moves, So with, as you think about like making things that are more timeless and evergreen, even with your music, and I definitely think you have the advantage just the way you craft it in the first place. What do you see what's next for you in your journey with music? Will it be doing more like what role do you see yourself playing in the near future with it?
Let's see here. As you get older, man, you tend to find different niches as far as what it is that might inspire you. As far as for me, I'm thinking I'm a dabble in the production role.
Okay.
But as long as I'm able, and as long as I'm able to process, and as long as I'm able to create something that's dope and meaningful, I'm gonna do that. I don't think there should be ain't no age, to me ain't no age limit on nothing. It's either you dope or you not dope.
But I do think that being true to where you at in life, it comes across corny when you aren't no longer like, if you I guess you could even be 25. If you're 25 rapping about being in the club, but you ain't an in the club dude, it ain't gonna feel right. So like, I guess like that presence of mind as we see in the maturation of a lot of MCs, and then it grows based on like where they at in music. I think it can only get doper. With that, we gonna wrap. I'm gonna have to bring you back because we didn't even get into any of the combat sports, and we gotta get more into like your take on on DJs themselves, because you talked a lot about DJs, and I think DJs play a big role in curating hip hop itself.
Yeah.
And the role of DJs, it's unique. So I definitely got to bring you back.
Okay.
But I got the classic 3 Detroit is different questions.
Okay, go for it.
What was your very first car? What year did you get in? What year, make, and model was the car?
Oh man. Let's see. Man, I had an 86 Topaz, Mercury Topaz.
Okay.
4-door. Let's see, the fan didn't work automatically. I had to have a toggle switch put in to every 10-15 minutes. I had to hit the toggle switch to turn the fan on.
That's real.
You know.
Where was the first place you went with it?
Shit, to work.
That's even more real.
To work.
Put up to work. How long did it last?
That car lasts probably about 2.5, 3 months, and then I was able. I got it from my uncle. My uncle was like this mechanic that, you know, he was like the hub mechanic. I mean, he put shit together, and it worked. It worked until it couldn't work no more, man. I wound up selling it for a couple $100. And I took that money and put it towards a Cavalier. I had like a 4-door white Cavalier with, I remember the radio had a faceplate. You could remove it. I thought my shit was like the dopest.
Oh, yeah. The removable face.
Oh, all that, yeah.
Oh, yeah. People have it in the pocket.
Yep.
All right. Second Detroit is a different question. You're the DJ at the end of the fireworks, Woodward and Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
The fireworks just ended. You get to play 3 songs. What songs are you playing?
Ooh, man, that's crazy. See, I'm a different dude, man. See, you can't see. Let's see. 3 songs I'm playing as soon as the fireworks is over.
Yep, and you can be a 2 type of DJ. You can try to play to the crowd, or you can just play to yourself. It don't make a difference.
I'm going to play Don't Stop Believing by Journey.
Okay.
Maybe The Final Countdown. It's the final countdown.
People gonna feel like they at the palace. I'm with it.
I mean, cause you talk about fireworks.
Yeah.
Man. Of course I gotta throw some hip hop in there. What would I play? What would be the third? What's the joint by DMX?
What?
Party On? Party Up? Yeah, I play that.
Oh, yeah, you're going to have people. Yeah, that is like firework-ish.
Yeah, it's firework-ish music. That's look, and them are 3 records that you normally would never. I would never be like.
They would not be as the DJ.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking
fireworks.
Yeah,
like, all right.
because it ain't just us. It's a whole bunch of. So those are all 3. First off, I mean, if you want to be real, you can add 4. Like it's. Like I love music, not just hip hop. I don't want people to think that I'm just this hip hop dude. I love music. One of my favorite artists is Neil Diamond. I love Neil Diamond. I fucks with Neil like heavily, like Forever in Blue Jeans, Song Blue. Let's see. Most people, you know, they like the cliche stuff. I mean, Sweet Caroline and American and stuff like that. Me, I like the records that, you know, before UB40 fucked up Red Wine, that was a Neil Diamond record that was done wonderful. I mean,
oh man,
I'm a Neil dude.
This is like the second UB40 reference since that Kavanaugh hearing.
See, and look, and that's why that's why I'm bringing it up, because I read that.
I'm like, damn, I never thought in my life I would hear about UB40 again.
Look, whenever I see UB40, and ain't no diss to them, but they remade a Neil Diamond record, and like Neil, like for real, in real life, like Neil Diamond is one of my guys. I'm a big Kiss, big Chicago fan. I love Huey Lewis and the News. But one of the things that I've learned by liking a lot of different, and I mess with Hector Lavoe too. Hector Lavoe is one of the dopest salsa artists.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know who Hector Lavoe.
Man,
I'll look that up. I'll look it up.
Okay, you remember the movie that Jennifer Lopez? Jennifer Lopez made with Anthony Michael Anthony, the Italian dude, Mark Anthony.
Okay.
They made a movie about Hector Lavoe.
I'll check for it.
Dude, his music. Like the movie is dope. I ain't gonna front on it, but his music, like you may not be able to understand nothing that he say, but when you hear his music,
I mean, I listen to Sergio Mendes, so I mean, I'm assuming that it's in that same. But I'll check. But salsa moves different than that Brazilian jazz that Sergio. And it's probably like somebody down in Brazil that's like, Sergio is not.
Look, when I was a kid, I was a fan of Los Lobos, only because they made the record La Bamba. Okay. I didn't know what that record was, but I knew I loved that record. And it's just a feeling. But there are two records, when you play them, like, and like if you go to like, in the burbs or whatever, if you play Don't Stop Believing or if you play Living on a Prayer.
Oh, yeah, Bon Jovi. I mean, good. Dude. I think, but Neil Diamond is a hell of a songwriter.
Man, I love
experiential songwriter. Like, I think what he's done, Cat Stevens or Yusef Islam, like some of their, Joni Mitchell, like it's certain songwriters.
Joni Cole, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joni Cole, yeah, she's super cool.
So, like, it's like some good songwriters, and like as an MC, it's like you look at the way they craft their songs.
And I'm probably also the biggest BG fan too. Like the very first piece of vinyl I ever owned was a Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
Ain't that something?
And to this day, it's the greatest soundtrack of all time. Like I have these arguments sometimes with women who want to bring up Whitney Houston's
Bodyguard.
They want to bring that shit up all the time. I'm like, man, it ain't fucking with the beat. And no diss to Whitney, but it ain't fucking with the Gibbs brothers.
I'm so hip hop. I think my favorite soundtracks are definitely Boomerang.
Boomerang.
New Jack City. And
what was that song on PM Dawn had
Juice.
On? What was that song PM Dawn had on the Boomerang?
That was a Sent to Drift on
Set Adrift on Memory Bliss. They had some, but it was a love record that they had on there that was cold. I'm talking about it was like a love, and that was the record that put them over.
Yeah. Okay. And then that.
After that, they went down.
Cause it's at the end.
It's at the end of the movie.
Yeah, where Eddie hooked back up with Halle Berry.
That is a great fucking like. I love dope music. Like dope music has no color to me. It's either dope or it is not dope. Just like hip hop, it's either dope or it's not dope. Like I don't necessarily have a problem with these new dudes today, but if you're not really saying nothing, if you're not.
I think it needs to be brought to me, and I probably am more open than a lot of MCs to what's new. Like I think they have different goals, so different MCs that have different goals and what they going for. So like Travis Scott with what he did with Astroland, it's like okay, I can hear.
I haven't listened to it, but everybody keep marveling about how dope it is.
I mean, it's, but you got to get the right context. Where some of the stuff seems like okay, if this is for spectacle. But I didn't like this for spectacle guys as I was coming up either. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't like that then. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I never got into horrorcore rap, but I liked Bone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, it's like, you know what I mean?
But they got records, though, man.
Oh, I mean, but you know what I mean? Like,
First of the Month is one of them records that, like, I'm not even a big Bone fan, but when I hear First of the Month, I smile because it's a dope-ass record.
I mean, the concept of it in the hood, I mean, shit, it was just yesterday.
That's the realest shit. Like, how do you not like that? That record should get played on the first every fucking month. It's just, how do you not like that record? It's just certain records you hear and you gotta fucking smile like that.
That song is so hood. It's like
It's
my
real as
sister's
fuck.
already dressed to get her government check.
Look, certain records like I like Tupac. I'm not I'm not a Tupac stan, but a record that nobody ever talks about that I'd be offended by, like, are y'all kidding me? They be talking about, man, Pac's best verse. Be like, dog, Pac's best verse was on I Gotta Get Mine.
Oh man, I love it. I actually think he wrote. Oh man, shot.
You think he wrote
Bree?
Yeah,
I think he wrote Bree first verse. It just feel like
it
a
feel
lot.
like it?
Like yeah. It just between Bree's first to third verse. But I mean, like anytime it's in, that's like a Detroit classic too. Like they play that. The DJ can drop the verse and then people pick up with
Bree third verse. I mean
it's
the
dope.
last, man,
it just feels, but it just feels different than his first. Yeah,
it does.
That's all I mean. So that's why I think Pac had something to do with the first one.
Yeah.
Or Bree was shifting. I think they did that in Andre Risen's studio in Atlanta too.
Yeah, I forgot Andre Rison was in that video. What's the third question?
Last one is if you could rename Detroit after not Detroit. If you could rename Woodward after one Detroiter, who would it be and why?
Who after one Detroiter and why? Wow, that's pretty dope. That's a dope question. Wow. After one Detroiter, who? See, you gotta be careful with that, with that because everything is presentation. Because what this person may mean to me, it might mean a little different to somebody else. I'm big on Coleman Young, everything.
Oh man, well, that is definitely the number one. That's the number one. Everybody's go Coleman.
I'm big on Coleman because there are things that are happening today that he was speaking about 20 years 20, 30 years ago about what's currently happening in the city as far as the gentrification and
when you come back, we'll talk about that as you lived in downtown for so long during this transition of what's happening in Detroit. So
scary, bro.
You lived in downtown when it was no Starbucks. And now it's
my apartment literally was right across the street I could look outside and see the Renaissance building.
Yeah.
And like super close.
Yeah.
In proximity of everything.
The pre-Starbucks downtown Detroit.
All of that, yes.
Yeah. That was a different Detroit.
I went. It's like for me, it's an episode of The Twilight Zone. I wake up and I got Harold and James right next door to me, and now I got Paul and they ain't no diss, but Paul and Amy on the side of me now. And it's like, I'm thankful because I can afford to live down here. I can do certain things, but it makes me, and I'm all for, like, I believe that, I love us first and foremost. It'll always be us first. But I also believe that you need different makeup in your community to make up a community. Like, the world is not 100% black, even though I'm black all day, every day. You have to learn how to adapt. I love learning about other cultures. I love going to other countries. I love breaking stereotypes. That's big to me, man. I can remember when I was in the Marine Corps, I was in boot camp with people that never ever been around black people in their life. And for me, that's hard to believe.
I thought you was going to say a white guy beat you in a one-on-one pickup game.
Nah.
Like, damn, it's real.
You silly. But all they know, because they live in little rural towns.
Oh, man, it's so many, and that's what I like about Detroit, because it brings a lot of intersections. That's why I say Detroit is different because of the people. But
you need that.
When you travel, definitely military experience does put you in proximity with.
Give you a different.
It's like, damn, America's a big country. Like people from cities that you never even not only heard of, you don't even know the city that they say, well, the big city is this. And it's like, what is that?
It gives you a different perspective, just at least coming from here. Mm-hmm. I can remember crossing over the borders of Mexico, man, and seeing kids with no legs playing banjos, just hoping to, and you know they're out there for a long time playing a little banjo, just trying to get some money.
Get some change, yeah.
And it's crazy, and it's like, wow, we complain about, what are we really complaining about? You know, when you put things in perspective, man. So I'm just super thankful that I can get up every day and work hard for what it is that I want and continue to do music the way that I want to do it. And there's no limitations to what I have going on. I'm more proud about that than anything, man. And right now I'm just making some of the best music that, you know, I can make. I got a new album called Thornton Melon. I can talk about.
Yeah. Please do.
I got a new album called Thornton Melon that I'm gonna be dropping hopefully in a couple weeks. I want to try to get it out here. I got a show on the 28th at SOBs with Bumpy Knuckles, Biz Markie, Notch, DJ Premier, a couple other legends in the building. Craig G. I'm super proud to even, you know, be brought out.
Be in that.
Yeah. It's for me to even see my name on a flyer with these dudes, it's like, wow, that's crazy.
That's dope. Yeah.
But my new album is called Thornton Melon, and I call it Thornton Melon because, you know, Rodney Dangerfield is one of my favorite comics. He had a movie back in the day called Back to School where he was a high school dropout, and he wind up becoming a millionaire on selling tall and fat clothing, you know, and he sent his son off to college, and his son wasn't doing too good in college. He wind up, you know, lying to his dad, telling him he was on a dive team when he wasn't on a dive team, and he was flunking out. So to motivate his son, he decided to go back to school. And not only was he the oldest freshman, he was the oldest freshman on campus, but he also was the dopest freshman on campus. So
you just gave, man, you just gave the most intellectual breakdown of that silly ass movie, and I love that movie ever. I felt like it was like a Roger Ebert.
I love
that
that
movie is.
Look,
I mean, but Wally Sparks, all those goofy movies.
You gotta be able to laugh, man. That's the whole thing. So the premise, like for my project, is, yup, I'm an older dude. I'm Thornton Melon, and I'm taking y'all back to school on what hip hop.
That's dope. That's
supposed to be about.
That's dope. I like it. I like the concept. Let me know. We'll definitely pump and tie in the video. This will probably be like late October when we drop it.
Oh, indeed.
Anyway, so it'll probably be there for release. I'll put the link up.
Okay.
We gonna build again. Just know V Stylez will be back. It's more to talk about.
Wait a minute, hold on. But before we bounce.
And then I was gonna say, tell people what your, you know, how to get at you and all of that stuff. And then also whatever you about to say too.
Okay. You can get at me on Twitter. I'm verified on there at VSTYLEZ. Same thing on Instagram, VSTYLEZ. You can hit me up on Facebook. I'm verified on there, V Stylez Official or Official V Stylez. Orlando VC on regular Facebook. Just hit me up, man. I mean, you know, I'm not no Hollywood dude, you know, type guy. But the name of the album is Thornton Melon. I got a single that I'm gonna be dropping soon called Respect with my man Sky Zoo. My man Big Gub produced it. I got a remix with 14K. I got another single that my man Pete Rock produced called Detropolis. And it's like my ode to the city. Shot a video for that, and shot a video for the Respect joint. I got production from Knots on there, my man Moss, Apollo Brown. I got some shit on there. This album, in my opinion, is better than my last album, and I love my last album. This is pretty heavy for me. I keep y'all in tune to what I'm doing. Thanks for the love.
Yep. And you should be able to see that Respect video or the whatever if the Respect.
Respect probably gonna come out first.
Okay, so you'll be able to see that video in this mix on the page. Keep watching. We plugging you with some hip hop now. I love hip hop, so it's rare that we even get them in here. We about to knock out more of them too, because you just really push. I need to get Awesome Dre in here.
That's my guy, man. That's my look. It's always love when I see him, and you know, I still look at that album cover, man, where he got. I think he got one foot on Kumo D's BK jacket, and he got one foot on LL's Kango or something like that. Yeah. You know, but yeah, I mess with Awesome Dre, man. He's I mean, you can't say nothing about that dude, man. That dude was doing it when we was only thinking about stuff like that. We wasn't even thinking about it. We was just happy to see this dude.
Legend. That video where he like in the classroom when they
frankly speaking,
box, it's like
frankly speaking, yeah. That's word.
Peace.
Yes, sir.
Black revolutionaries, distillery owners, Italian fashion retailers, and Motown Grammy winners all share their best stories never before told in any other media outlets on Detroit is Different. Visit DetroitisDifferent.com or download the Detroit is Different app on Apple's App Store or Google's Play Store.